Have you ever wondered what would happen if one night, in the middle of a celebration, you suddenly realized that you were nothing more than a shadow, an illusion of something that no longer exists? Imagine that Christmas Eve, the most anticipated night of the year, turns into a twisted game of fate, where neither time nor death have any power. What seemed like a simple festive dinner where friends and family gathered transforms into an encounter with the supernatural. What if everything you know, everything you thought was real, crumbled before your eyes? That is the story we're about to explore today. The story of a dinner that never should have happened, but somehow everyone was invited. Welcome to the Dinner of the Uninvited. It was a cold Christmas Eve when a group of friends gathered in an old house on the outskirts of town. The house, with its worn wooden walls and an air of mystery in every corner, seemed like the perfect place to spend the night. Everything had been prepared meticulously. The table was set immaculately, with golden candles and elegant plates that reflected a warm light, while the smell of turkey and freshly baked bread filled the air. The guests, amidst laughter and jokes, settled into their seats, grateful to spend the evening surrounded by good company. No one could have imagined what was about to happen. No one knew that, from that moment on, Christmas Eve would turn into something much darker than they could have ever imagined. As the evening progressed, something began to feel off. At first, it was a slight sense of discomfort, something that couldn't be pinpointed exactly. One of the guests, Sarah, noticed that the clock on the wall seemed to be moving slower than usual. She looked around, wondering if anyone else had noticed, but her friends were too busy enjoying the meal. A strange mist started to form in the corners of the room, as if the house itself was breathing. Sarah tried to shake off the unease she was feeling, but as the minutes passed, the sense of being trapped in something with no way out grew. Everyone seemed fine, full of energy and joy, but something didn't add up. No one seemed older, no one seemed to change. It was as if the night had stopped time, and that could only mean one thing. Something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, the candlelight flickered, and the sound of the clock became more than just background noise. Sarah looked around and realized that no one was talking. They were all staring at each other, as if they were sharing some dark thought, a thought they didn't want to acknowledge. It was then that one of them, Peter, stood up from the table, his face pale and his body trembling. "Does anyone else feel this?" he whispered. No one responded immediately, but the expressions on the others' faces indicated that something was happening. The cold began to seep into the room. The wind was creeping through the cracks in the windows, even though they were closed, and the mist in the corners seemed to intensify, darkening the atmosphere. In an attempt to understand what was happening, Sarah stood up and walked over to the window. When she looked outside, the sight before her froze her in place. There was no snow, no lights shining from the neighboring houses, only darkness, an absolute void. The wind didn't carry the sounds of the city, only an echo of something distant, like a wail that drifted through the air. She quickly turned back to her friends, but as she did, a chill ran down her spine. Something had changed. The faces of the others were now strange, as though their bodies were present, but their souls had vanished. Time had stopped, but they were still there, trapped in a dinner that made no sense. It was then that the woman sitting at the far end of the table, a familiar yet strange face at the same time, spoke. "Don't you know yet?" she said in a quiet voice, with a calmness that was unsettling. "We are trapped here, in a party that never ends. We are the ghosts of past celebrations, condemned to repeat this night forever." No one could respond. No one understood how this was possible. Sarah felt her heart race, but her legs wouldn't move. A shiver ran through her body when the woman continued. Every Christmas Eve, we come here, sit down, eat, drink, and we never leave, because we never left." The others stared at her with hollow eyes, not understanding, but the fear had begun to seep into their hearts. Peter tried to stand up, but something held him back. A strange noise began to fill the room, as if the house itself started to groan. In that moment, the lights went out, and absolute silence filled the space. When the lights were turned, everyone was in the same position, but the atmosphere had shifted. The food on the plates, which had been full moments ago, was now empty. The air was thick, and the warmth from the candles seemed to have vanished. Sarah, drenched in cold sweat, tried to ask a question, but the mysterious woman interrupted her. "You can't escape. No one can. We are here forever. Why do you think all your memories fade away every year? Because what you think is your life is really just the echo of what we were." As the hours passed, the group sank deeper into a pit of despair. There was no way out, no way to break the cycle. They were trapped in that dinner, condemned to live it over and over again, unable to move forward or backward. Every year, new faces appeared, new guests. But they all ended up becoming part of this macabre celebration. Death had claimed them, but time had not allowed them to leave. They were stuck in that interdimensional space, unable to escape the torment of reliving a night that went nowhere. The memories of Sarah's life before this night began to fade like mist in the wind. She couldn't remember her family. She couldn't remember her life before this evening. All she knew was that she was trapped. The pain of despair built with every passing second, and the only way out seemed to be accepting the reality of her fate. But deep within her, Sarah still fought to understand, to find a sliver of hope. However, that small spark of hope was soon extinguished when the woman who had revealed the truth stood up slowly and walked toward the table. "There's no way you can escape," she said, with an empty smile on her face. "You are the uninvited, the ones who should never have come, but for some reason, you were dragged into this place. There's no turning back." And with those words, the night continued, relentless, eternal, like a nightmare that would never end. The dinner of the uninvited went on, the table always filled with guests who never left. And though they could no longer remember how they had gotten there, what they knew for certain was that if they ever thought this was an illusion, the truth was much worse. They were condemned to be part of a story that would never end. Have you ever felt like what you're living is just a never-ending repetition with no way out? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like, comment on what you thought, and subscribe for more unsettling tales. I'll see you in the next video, here at Pactostenebrosos, where the shadows always await us.